Hey everyone, we're back for notebook page 14, last notebook page for unit 4, learning. You can take down the title card now if you haven't. Let's talk about observational learning, some other types of learning that we're going to get into today. So breaking away from the behaviorists, Albert Bandura is one of the first transitional figures to cognitive psychology. And one of Bandura's early discoveries was that children and animals learn observationally, even in the absence of consequences or experience, as was deemed necessary by behaviorism, as we talked about last time. He discovered this during an experiment in which children observed frustrated adults hitting a toy clown by the name of Bobo the clown. Children who witnessed the hitting then expressed their frustration later by exercising the same violent act. Conversely, children who had not witnessed the adults hitting the clown did not act out in a physically aggressive manner when frustrated. This came to be known as observational learning and helped lead to a host of other discoveries. And Bandura noted the phenomenon of modeling, the process of observing and imitating a certain behavior. So let me put up the slide. So let's continue on this a bit. Once children learn a lot by merely observing and imitating their parents' behavior. If parents are demonstrating pro-social behavior, positive, constructive, helpful behavior, the children are likely to develop those behaviors and practices that allow others, to enjoy and benefit from association with them. So, for example, if parents model proper disagreement, not insulting each other, not shouting, not becoming physically aggressive, children will learn healthy ways to resolve disputes. Conversely, if parents model antisocial behavior, physically, verbally aggressive, or reclusive behavior, their children are much more likely to be aggressive, violent, impulsive, suffer the negative social consequences of fewer friends, less guidance from adults, as well as less learning and economic opportunities due to increased rates of delinquency. So this modeling and this observational learning can be very important in that development. His findings were further confirmed by the possible discovery of mirror neurons. These mirror neurons are frontal lobe neurons. And some scientists think fire when performing imitation actions or when observing others. This was noted by Italian neuroscientists who found that a monkey's reward center, the reward centers of a monkey light up when they witness others eating ice cream as if they were eating it too. It's believed that mirror neurons may enable both imitation and empathy, and have likely increased evolutionary success among social creatures, particularly primates, which obviously gets into humans. So let me put up the slide here. Let's go on slide 3. Let's talk about contingencies a little bit. A host of hypothetical and observational and language-driven knowledge is procured through a process or memory type known as semantic memory. Long-term memory that processes ideas and concepts that are not drawn from personal experience. So semantic memory instead can be acquired through language. And then we have in long-term memory episodic memories, right? So episodic memories are memories of personal events that happen to you, right? Things that actually happen. You went to a concert, your 16th birthday, went to a wedding. Those are episodic memories. So ultimately, these are some of the, observational driven processes. All right, slide 4, unrealized learning. Additionally, cognitive psychologists and scientists discovered one can learn or solve problems regardless of experience or conscious awareness of the learning process. Insight learning, for example, is a phenomenon where one suddenly realizes a problem solution out of the blue. For example, a team of firefighters were stumped for more than 2 hours about how to rescue an injured robin from a tube too thin for human hands. Suddenly, out of the blue, one of the firefighters thought of filling the tube slowly with sand to progressively lift the bird out. No hint or clues were given to draw the idea out. It simply popped into his brain. That happens. Additionally, one can process and remember information without ever experiencing consequences or even realizing the learning has taken place until the person is incentivized to use it. This phenomenon is known as latent learning or unrealized or hidden learning. So, for example, you might be exploring a new city, you don't know the town very well, but if asked, you're likely to accurately explain how to retrace your steps despite not knowing the town very well. Slide now. Reflects on behaviors. In terms of behavior, people can find it difficult to control their own behaviors at times, often doing or saying things that later they regret, or perhaps did or said something that felt right in the moment but was clearly wrong in the long term. And the best way to exert control over one's own behavior is practicing self-control. Self-control is the ability to control impulses, delay short-term gratification for long-term rewards. Hopefully some of you've experienced before. The payoff for delaying gratification is tremendous. Multiple studies have confirmed the utility of self-control. For example, one experiment gave tellers choice of either taking a marshmallow immediately, satisfy their desires immediately, or they waited 5 minutes without taking the marshmallow, they get 2 marshmallows. Tracking these toddlers for years as they grew, those that exerted self-control during the experiment and waited for a second marshmallow were far happier and more successful than their impulsive counterparts. The same is true of saving money for future use or investment instead of spending it on short-term pleasures. Working, educating, and applying oneself to achieve higher incomes or positions rather than spending time on fleeting experiences or pleasures, working out in the gym instead of spending all your time watching Netflix, etc., etc. Self-control begets long-term, though often discouragingly slow, progress and substantial benefit to oneself and their family community over extended periods of time. Robert Escorla, a psychologist, noted that when an animal's behavior had no impact on a stimulus, they descended into a state of learned helplessness that often resulted in apathy or a lack of attempting to solve or remedy the solution. This also applies to humans. For example, when dogs were strapped down and issued random shocks following stimuli, a light, for example, they quickly learned the stimuli was unrelated to anything they did and soon became hopelessly disinterested in the shocks or trying to avoid them altogether. We looked at one of those experiments, not ethically sound, but we're done. However, it should be noted that behaviorism was correct and that one can engage in behavioral modification, the altering and or encouraging of the behavior of children, friends, family, self, or animals through the use of reinforcements and punishments. Such strategies have been used to train pets, socialize children, make long-term changes, ending bad habits, smoking, drinking, gambling, etc. So you can make some of these changes happen. On slide 6, other associations. Along with behavioral modification, John Garcia furthered associations in learned behavior with the discovery of taste aversion or resistance to eating or drinking things that make you sick. Garcia discovered that making rats sick before they ate food caused them to associate the following food incorrectly with nausea, resulted in them avoiding that food or eating it again. Such strategies have been employed to aid the breaking of smoking and drinking habits, putting nausea-inducing chemicals on cigarettes and beverages to give them negative nausea associations, those who are trying to quit. Another set of false associations can be seen in superstitious behavior, the incorrect association of a neutral stimulus with a reward or positive outcome. For example, if you hit a home run after you scratch your left ear, you may falsely attribute your home run to scratching your ear. It had nothing to do with the home run. This is how a superstitious behavior is born. Let's put this slide. All right. One more. Slide 7, key figures. Another figure to challenge behaviorism's theories was Edward Tolman, who noted the impact of motivation on the behavior of individuals. Tolman and others noted 2 basic types of motivation: intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation, the desire to perform a behavior effectively for its own sake, based on natural interests. One example would be playing or practicing basketball because you're driven to be the best player in the world. Extrinsic motivation is the desire to perform behavior to gain external rewards or avoid punishment. This form of motivation tends to be weaker and more fleeting, but it can be effective. One example would be practicing and playing basketball to earn more money. Both can motivate you to act, and extrinsic is clearly a form of operant conditioning in many cases. Intrinsic motivation can continue to impact behavior even without reinforcement or substantially delayed reinforcement. One thing to note, however, is that attempting to enhance one's intrinsic motivation with extrinsic motivation can actively discourage individuals or diminish their motivation. This is referred to as the over-justification effect. One example was an Australian company that attempted to boost creativity by adding monetary incentives. After adding the incentives, people were often unable to create new content, became discouraged or disinterested. Conversely, those within the company who were told they could work on any project they wanted produced a substantially higher amount of creativity and useful content. So there's some additional information. So some of the people here are our guys Edward Thorndike, who had the law of effect that, the more favorable the outcome, the more likely you are to do something. And then Robert Rescorla, who I talked about before. That's slide 7. That is unit 4. Thank you so much.